The silence in our living room feels deafening now. Just 10 minutes ago, we were laughing together on the couch, scrolling through our phones, sharing random thoughts about our day. Then I made that comment about him not being manly enough to handle the spider in the bathroom, and everything changed. He didn't slam the door or shout back at me. He simply stood up, grabbed his keys, and walked out without a single word. That quiet exit somehow feels worse than any argument we've ever had. I keep replaying the moment in my mind, trying to understand what went so wrong. It started innocently enough. I had called him from the bathroom, asking him to come kill the spider hanging above the shower. When he suggested I just use a tissue myself, I laughed and said something about him not being man enough to rescue his wife from a tiny spider. In my head, it was just playful teasing, the kind of back-and-forth banter that couples share. But the way his face changed, the way his shoulders dropped slightly before he composed himself and left, I realize now that my words hit something much deeper than I intended. Growing up, I always thought strength meant being able to speak your mind, to tease and be teased without taking things too seriously. My family joked about everything, and learning to laugh at yourself was considered resilience. But I'm beginning to understand that what feels like harmless ribbing to me might feel like genuine criticism to someone else, especially when it touches on something as fundamental as their sense of identity. My husband has always been gentle, thoughtful, more likely to solve problems with patience than aggression. These are qualities I fell in love with. Yet somehow in that moment, I found myself echoing outdated stereotypes about what makes a man valuable. The irony isn't lost on me. I criticized him for not conforming to a standard of masculinity that I don't even believe in. I love that he cries during movies, that he's better at remembering birthdays than I am, that he solves conflicts through conversation rather than confrontation. So why did those words come out of my mouth? Maybe it's because society has trained us all to equate masculinity with physical strength and dominance, even when we consciously reject those ideas. Maybe I was tired and spoke without thinking. Or maybe, in some twisted way, I was testing him, seeing if he would prove his strength by arguing back or defending himself. If that's true, then his quiet dignity in simply leaving was actually the strongest response he could have given. The more I sit here in this empty house, the more I understand the weight of what happened. For men, especially sensitive ones like my husband, comments about their masculinity can feel like attacks on their worth as partners and protectors. Society already sends them enough messages about not being enough. They don't need to hear it from the people who claim to love them most. I think about all the times he's been there for me in ways that have nothing to do with traditional masculine roles. He's held me while I cried about work stress, remembered to buy my favorite tea when I was sick, listened patiently to my anxieties without trying to immediately fix them. He's protected me from loneliness, from feeling unloved, from facing life's challenges alone. These forms of strength are real and valuable, even if they don't involve killing spiders or lifting heavy objects. When he comes back, and I hope he does, I need to apologize not just for the words themselves, but for the mindset behind them. I need to acknowledge that I momentarily bought into a definition of masculinity that reduces men to caricatures of toughness. I need to tell him that his gentleness is not weakness, that his emotional intelligence is not a flaw, that the way he loves me has nothing to do with how he measures up to some arbitrary standard of manliness. Moving forward, I want to be more conscious of how my words might land on him. Teasing can be a form of intimacy between couples, but it should build up rather than tear down. It should celebrate our quirks and differences rather than exploit our insecurities. Most importantly, it should never make the person we love question their fundamental worth. The house feels too quiet without him here. I'm learning that sometimes the most powerful response to hurtful words isn't a loud argument, but the dignified silence of someone who knows their own value, even when the person who should affirm it most fails to do so.